I was getting a little tired of doing all this classical stuff and was thinking about doing something more related to the modern world. And about that time, where I was teaching, it wound up that I taught a student with mild cerebral palsy to drive. And my fellow faculty members acted like there was some sort of joke. And I thought, man, this is an awful social prejudice. And I had been thinking about studying social prejudices because I had lived in France for several years, and they have certain ethnic prejudices that are somewhat alike and somewhat different from the ones we have in the United States. And I was going to see what the similarity and differences were, and I didn't want to get involved in an elaborate study of ethnicity and migration of people and history like that. But then I heard all of these really, I found, crude remarks about a student with disabilities. But I thought that would be a good subject to talk about prejudices toward people with disabilities. And I was in the middle of that when I went up to Middlebury, Vermont, and I'd come into contact with a new field called augmentative communication. It wasn't called that then, but I had heard about it, and I heard that people with cerebral palsy and other disabilities were speaking by means of voice synthesizers and computers. And when I actually got to doing some data that spring, I found out that the people that I wanted to talk to, I met some people with cerebral palsy, and their communication aids were primitive, to say the least. And I thought, well, this isn't going to work, and I knew that you could predict letters, but still, even if you're predicting letters, it takes a lot to write a sentence. And I decided that what I would be do something with the hieroglyphic approach, in which you simultaneously can track the number of symbols in a sequence. Like Chinese, 3 or 4 Chinese symbols can be an entire sentence. But there are 15 to 20,000 different Chinese symbols. So there's an inverse proportional relationship between the number of symbols in a symbol set and the number of symbols in a symbol string. And I wanted to lower the number of symbols in the symbol set, and I also, so it wouldn't be a huge set like Chinese, but I wanted to lower the number of symbols in the symbol string. And I thought hieroglyphics would do very well for this.
That was in the early spring.
It was in the spring of 1980 when I did that. And I showed it to a few people and started to do readings and various things. I came in close contact with bliss symbols, and I kept thinking someone else had done what I had done, but nobody else was doing what I was doing. I think it comes from my somewhat unusual background into this area. And I started showing what I had done to manufacturers, and then I basically quit my job and focused on Minspeak. I named it Minspeak from George Orwell's Newspeak in 1984. And Minspeak meant minimum effort speech. And that's how it got its first name.